Jordy Culotta Show, as always, built by R&B Builders. Check out our friends over at R&B at rb-builders.com. We always talk to Jacques on Wednesdays. Yesterday was a travel day for Jacques as he was heading up to Omaha. He is now up at Omaha preparing for the weekend as we tap into Jacques up in Omaha on the phone. Jacques, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Jordy. I'm looking out over the Missouri River. I'm in Council Bluffs, which is technically Iowa, but right across the river there, you can see the buildings in downtown Omaha. And so, yeah, I made the trip yesterday and looking forward to hopefully staying here a long time.
It's good to be back from an LSU standpoint, obviously, since 2017, Jacques. But what have you felt around the city of them having LSU back? The locals have got to be fired up that the Tigers are en route.
Yeah, just a few people I interacted with yesterday, like the Uber driver. He asked me where I was from, what I was here for, and I told him, and he said, "Oh, that's great. Everybody here in Omaha wants LSU to come, just because they're great for business. They're great for fun. They make the event fun." He said they're so friendly and engaging. They'll feed you. I mean, all the things we always hear about the LSU fan base, in particular baseball. Baseball, you know, more than football, is more warm and inviting and welcoming. And I think that the people of Omaha are certainly happy they're here. Certainly one storyline, you know, there's one record that appears everyone wants to break that has nothing to do with football, and that's the Jell-O shot thing over at this place called Rocco's. This pizza joint or whatever, in which Ole Miss had 18,339, I think it was, last year. So that'll be a story, journalism, Jordy, that I'll have to tackle while I'm here and see if LSU breaks that record.
Jacques breaking all the hard-hitting stories from up in Omaha for the next 2 weeks. You could feel that Jay Johnson had a pressure to take this program to Omaha, right? Whether it was in the post-game press conference in Hattiesburg last year after being bounced out of the regionals, or really throughout this season, just talking about the emphasis of taking his team back. Did you get a feel of now that they've stamped their ticket, maybe what Jay Johnson feels about his crew coming up?
You know, I'm glad you asked that question, because I'll ask for you also. I mean, I felt like when he came and met with the media, I guess that was Monday or Tuesday, I almost felt like he looked 5 years younger.
I agree.
Like he was so like refreshed, like he had finally slept maybe for the first time in a long time. And they are all saying that, look, the ultimate goal is not achieved. We haven't done everything we need to do. But I have talked to a couple people that kind of feel like, you know, maybe now to an extent they're kind of playing with house money, or they're kind of, you know, can relax a little bit more for the fact that the team has made it to Omaha. That they've made it to the College World Series, and with this roster and the amount of talent, and I just read about the 3 All-Americans on the team, and possibly the first 2 picks in the Major League Draft with Cruz and Skeens, that for this team to not escape a regional, especially when or a regional and a super regional, especially when you're hosting, you know, that would have been a major, major disappointment. So, you know, you come to Omaha, even if you lose your 2 games, and I don't think they will, or hopefully they won't, but you're still here for 4 or 5 days no matter what. So that gives them a lot of time to enjoy this experience. And for some of them, it will be a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
Baseball season's such a long ride, right? 56 regular season games. You got 3 weeks of postseason play before you get to the national tournament. And now it's 2 weeks of the national tournament if you can make it all the way through. Do you feel as if LSU is playing their best again? It kind of feels like they have found their stride to where they were the first 7 weeks of the season, where they were undoubtedly the best team in the country.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to what Jay Johnson says about when you play in the SEC, you're going to get beat up and you're going to get punched in the mouth and certainly I think it was, you know, entering the NCAA tournament, they were 5-7 in their last 12 games against SEC competition. Now, he also pointed out that there were certainly a couple of instances in the SEC tournament that he did things he would normally not do. Paul Skeens would not come out of that game if they were in the NCAA tournament or any other time. Ty Floyd wouldn't have come out that early. But they did apparently have a team meeting, the proverbial team meeting, the pivotal point in your ESPN 30 for 30, where we get everyone together and air things out. And so apparently, the guys said, look, we're not playing our best baseball. We're not doing everything we need to do. Dylan Cruz went through a stretch in which he proved he was human. I think he was 10 for 46 from the plate at one point. So, I think that they definitely struggled. I think the low point was that Sunday game against Mississippi State, in which they had a 9-run lead and they lost it and they lost the game. That was like, oh my goodness, how far can this team go? But when you're not playing SEC, well, you played a Kentucky team from the SEC in the Super Regional, but with the crowd and everything, you were able to move on. So and I think the pitching too. I mean, I think there was some great things written in the Advocate and by Cokie Riley in the Lafayette paper about how well the pitching has really rounded into shape, and they're pitching less people, right? I mean, I think they've kind of found their core of guys that they think they can count on, and it's all coming into form. And so, that was an interesting weekend last weekend, Jordy. Around 7-8 o'clock at night on Saturday, I don't think many people were in a great mood after not playing that game in the daytime and all that, and then on Sunday night everything's hunky-dory. So,
Paul Skeens, no doubt on game one, right? From your point of view.
Yeah, I don't see how he breaks that. Jay Johnson goes with somebody else. I think you got to do that. I mean, certainly you could say, well, can we beat somebody? Can we beat Tennessee with Thatcher Hurd or Ty Floyd and team him up with somebody else and save Skeens for Wake Forest? I just don't think you can do that. I think they'll probably go with Skeens in game one. But certainly, maybe LSU's run to Omaha was definitely not easy, but it wasn't that taxing. But now that they're here, their bracket is pretty difficult.
Yeah,
so
for sure. I mean, when you look at that side of the bracket, it feels like that's the best 4 teams in the country right now, with Wake Forest, LSU, Tennessee. I guess not Stanford. I guess Florida would be the other one on the other side. Florida seems like they've got the easiest here. I don't want to say anything's easy at the national tournament, but when you look at the two sides of the bracket, LSU and Wake's side is obviously the toughest one because of those two teams, right?
Yeah, well, if you could look at the Vegas odds that came out, Wake Forest is top odds. I think they had them at 23% chance to win, and I think LSU's right behind, maybe at 20, and then Florida's right there. So, I mean, the good news is it's a wide open thing. I think it's not like it's not like the women's basketball where it's like South Carolina was apparently head and shoulders over everyone else. It's a case of I think there are several teams that can win it. And chatting with LSU great Blair Barbier this week, it's not an insult to say, hey, you need a little luck. You need a couple things to go your way and to fall into place to win a national championship. And we'll see if that happens. In the past, when LSU's come here, the new park I'm talking about, they haven't had their greatest share of luck. Certainly in the early years, the ball was not flying. I mean, I remember Christian Ibarra and Mason Katz and those guys tagging baseballs and then dying at the warning track. Well, they fixed that. There's a lot more offense, but still it's a pretty big poke to get it out of the park.
LSU and Tennessee coming up 6 o'clock Saturday night. It'll be in a primetime matchup. Jacques, do you take in all of the games when you make these trips? Are you getting stories, or do you take in, will you go to both games tomorrow?
I don't think so. I think it'll be a case of, where is LSU going tomorrow? Where are they practicing? Can we shoot any practice? I mean, that continues to be a new thing, and I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, they didn't want to shoot in any of the practice yesterday, even when they were in these, batting cages at Creighton University. So, trying to find where LSU is, what they're doing, if they're going to give interviews again tomorrow. I mean, I don't know if I've ever done this much media for one baseball game. When you finally get to the game, it's like, okay, we're done. We're done talking about all our storylines. Let's play the game. But Friday, hopefully maybe I'll go out and do some fans as well, maybe try to find some LSU fans and do some stories in that regard. But basically my job is to follow the team wherever they go. I'm supposed to be with them.
Anything on the Wes Johnson story of him being introduced this week at Georgia? I mean, that's not a distraction for the squad, right?
No, Jay Johnson, when he was finishing media yesterday, said something like, "Oh yeah, that was cool that he go do that. I just told him he needed to be back immediately." And I saw it was weird. I mean, I didn't even realize that Georgia was introducing him on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And then I glanced up and I saw it. I'm like, "Oh, that's interesting." And then when Wes lives 2 houses down from me, and so when I got home last night, he was literally getting out of his truck from his press conference in Athens, with his white starched shirt on. So that was interesting. I don't think that is a distraction. Hopefully, it's not. Talking to Ben McDonald. There were a lot of big shots on our plane, Jordy, and then there were like local yokels like me and Cobble. We belong in cattle class. Me and Cobble and Matt Trent, we belong in the back, but then there was like Kendall Rogers and Ben McDonald on our plane. And
wow.
Chat with Ben, and Ben was like, that's a lot for Wes to be doing right now. He's thinking about what his staff is going to be in Georgia. Mm-hmm. He's got to attack the transfer portal and get players. He's got to get settled. And oh, by the way, he's got to coach LSU and try to win a national championship in Omaha. So he's got a lot on his plate right now, but I think he's a professional, and I think he'll do a good job. I mean, certainly if you watch the emotion between Jay Johnson and Wes Johnson when they punched their ticket to the World Series and were hugging and everything on the field, that looked pretty genuine to me. I mean, I know there's been a lot said about, what is the relationship there, and did things go sideways and this and that, and that's, that there's some legitimacy to asking those questions mm-hmm. when a guy who's never been a head coach before becomes a head coach and leaves you after one season. But it does appear that I think that they all obviously share the same goal and want to get that done.
Jacques, one for you on the way out on football. I don't know if you saw it yesterday, but a big announcement from the league on the 2024 games that LSU's home schedule will feature Oklahoma for the first time, and the schedule will not feature Mississippi State and Auburn. Mississippi State, first time since World War I, they won't play the Bulldogs, and it'll be the first time over 40 years they hadn't played Auburn. What did you make of LSU's announcement of who they'll be facing off in Brian Kelly's year 3?
Well, the first thing that pops is Oklahoma coming to Tiger Stadium. That is a definite improvement, and certainly will be something that's huge, I think. And certainly when you throw in the Lincoln Riley aspect and the Brian Kelly aspect, and the fact those two were talked about to be the head coaches at LSU, that will be a huge storyline. Mississippi State going away, that's a game that you play every year that, there is some enjoyment to it and there is some familiarity to it. I don't think it's a heartbreaker to not play Mississippi State. I do think that Auburn is one of the best trips that you can make. I mean, I think that Auburn is like the essence of college football when you go to Jordan-Hare Stadium. It's a small place. It's a small college town. And then you look and there's a 90,000-seat stadium there. And
packed.
It's a packed, yeah, always loud.
Right.
I mean, Brian Kelly, I think he brought that up in your interview and in my interview, the fact that when you're in this conference, even a team like Auburn, who fired their coach, didn't have a great year. When we went there, it was a dogfight, and it was packed, and it was loud, and we barely got out of there with the win. So, I always like that trip and going there, and Auburn coming to LSU. I think the thing that I always heard from fans, Jordy, is they just wanted to go to different places. I don't want to go to Oxford and Starkville every other year, or Fayetteville, and the trip to Florida is the one that most fans seem to me that they just don't like making, going to Gainesville. So if it means that LSU goes to Georgia and Columbia, Missouri, and Kentucky, and some of these South Carolina places more, I think that's what fans enjoy. But those were some of the things that kind of popped out to me. I know there's been a lot of discussion about Georgia's schedule in 2024 and it being very difficult and some of those things. I just don't know how they're going to determine a champion when you're playing that many games and a lot of people don't play the same people and tiebreakers and all that. It sounds kind of complicated, but I guess they know what they're talking about.
On social media, Jacques Doucette is where you keep up with WAFB's own Jacques, as he is up in Omaha covering the Tigers as they are live at the College World Series. They're already there. They're going through practice. Jacques sending all the info back. Make sure and stay up with him on social media. We'll be checking in with him throughout the next couple of weeks, hopefully, if the Tigers can stay alive. Jacques, have a great trip and enjoy the weekend, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me. We'll have a lot of good stuff today. They're going to take their College World Series team photo. They're going to have an open practice at the stadium and a lot of media. So just be keeping up with us, and we'll get it all to you.
Follow him on Twitter to keep up with it. Thanks, Jacques.
All right. Thanks, Jordy.
All right, man. There he is, Jacques, checking in from Omaha this morning. As you'll get the best coverage around with Jacques up there, as he'll be all over LSU. He'll be bringing you the lifestyle stories from things that's happening away from the game and practices, the fans traveling up, the locals in Omaha, and what it means to have LSU back, and, of course, the team. Jacques will be on top of covering the Tigers for the next couple of days. That Wes Johnson story is a little weird, and it is to hear Ben McDonald talk about it like that, it brings a little bit more light to it. I mean, we can all kind of sit down here and speculate on what that's like, and, common sense kind of tells you don't really want to mess with the team right now, right? Like, you don't want to mess with the flow of everything. And even something simple as not having your pitching coach around for a day and a half, on the first days of Omaha. I'm not saying that it's a distraction that everybody's like, man, what are we going to do? But it's what you want at this time of the year is just so much consistency, right? Like, you just want a flat line of consistency. You don't want any ripples. You don't want any bubbles of things that can throw you off track. And again, not that it can, but it definitely can throw Wes Johnson off track, right? Like, that's the part that is probably the most concerning for Jay Johnson, the head coach, is that, you expect the guy to be dialed in. Professionalism tells you that Wes Johnson's going to be engaged in the game. He's going to be making and thinking to win. But his head's got to be in a different spot too.
Well, yeah, he's got 1 foot out the door.
Right?
Why wouldn't it be?
And I agree. Like, you're thinking you got to hire a staff.
Yeah.
You got to hit the transfer portal. We got to recruit. You got to recruit your own team. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a lot to do for teams that are not playing right now.
Why couldn't he wait? I've been wondering that too. Like, why couldn't he wait till after Omaha?
I don't know if Georgia was probably stressing that they need this stuff to happen.
Yeah.
Like, they need these conversations to start happening. They can't, like Jacques said, LSU is, they're the second favorite team in Vegas.
Right.
There's obviously a lot of money out there that believes LSU can win it. So if they do, you're talking about another 2 weeks.
Yeah.
He'll get on the job, and then that would be the first week of July.
Yeah.
The first week of July is July 4th. Nobody's working.
I know.
Right? So now we're into the middle of July, and he's probably thinking, we hadn't even hired a pitching coach yet. We haven't even hired an assistant yet. So I see Georgia's side.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, if I'm LSU, though, I see the side of, hey, man, you can have that press conference on Zoom, but you're not missing his flight.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. Yeah.
It's if they're pressing you to get this done, then maybe you can have an informal press conference, and then once the season's over, you can fly up there and put your suit on and put the hat on and take the pictures and do all the stuff. Obviously, that was not an option.
Right.
Right? That did not play out. And when I saw him being introduced earlier this week, obviously LSU was still in Baton Rouge. They were still, around town. But it was like, man, now?
I know.
Like, right now?
Because you cannot deny that his head is not 100% in this.
Well, I just don't know how it
can't
could be.
It can't be.
Yeah.
Not when you're moving to another job and you're taking care of business over there. It can't be. And I would be a little miffed if I was Jay Johnson, honestly.
I think he probably is.
Yeah.
I would, in this, I'm speculating. I don't know that, but Jay Johnson, the guy is psychotic.
Yeah, I know.
Jacques right. Monday, he was different. Like, that interview with Mikey and crew on Monday, as good as that interview is every single week, and it is fantastic every week. Monday, that was different.
Yeah.
He was more relaxed.
Right.
You could just see, like, he had almost kind of the weight of the world off of his shoulders. He was smiling. He was kind of like, he was he was much more relaxed.
Yeah.
And, I don't think that the goal for this team is to make it to Omaha. I just think that Jay Johnson put a lot of stress on his own plate of getting the program back.
Right.
I
And
mean,
he did.
If he would have missed the tournament with Dylan Cruz 2 seasons in a row, that would haunt.
Yeah.
That would be haunting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, forget Skeens, forget Tommy
know.
Tanks and Trey Morgan and all these cats that he's got. I mean, you could tell last season that Dylan Cruz not going to Omaha, it seemed like it affected Jay Johnson more than it affected Cruz. I mean, I'm sure, but Cruz he's not as vocal or, emotional. That's why last week when he was on the base path, like flexing his shirt, and I mean, that's why people were like, "Oh my God, you've never seen this."
I know.
But Jay Johnson wears his heart on his sleeve. Like, when he's in a bad mood or he's in a good mood.
And I love that.
Me too.
But this just seems like a distraction to me. I mean, it just seems unfortunate that the timing of this seems unfortunate.
I agree. I just think that, if you can prohibit that, you do it. Rather than getting into it. All right, good stuff from Jacques. Thank you for Jacques stopping in. Make sure you keep up with JD for everything that's coming out of Omaha, as Jacques will have it for you. His LSU back on the field today and practicing and getting ready for Saturday. I wouldn't expect any images or videos if they're shutting down that yesterday. That'll probably be the same deal today as LSU's up at, I believe Jacques said they were at Creighton University, which is right there in Omaha.
How many areas did these teams have to practice in there at Omaha? Like, how many fields did they get to utilize for this?
Well, I know that there's a couple of colleges in Omaha. University of Nebraska is in Lincoln.
So they go there too?
No.
Okay.
They'll go to Creighton is in Omaha. I know that there's another university in Omaha. Then they have high school fields.
Yeah.
But all of that stuff is figured out by the CWS. Like LSU has a time and a venue where they practice. LSU's not setting that up when they get their berth, right?
Yeah.
Like when they get their College World Series berth. I mean, the CWS committee is telling him, hey, LSU, you have this window at Creighton University to get your practices in every day. And then odds are, as they're finishing up, there's another team bussing in.
Right?
Right? I mean, that's how that works. I don't know if they use Charles Schwab Field right now either.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering too.
So they may be able to use the facility because I believe every team hits batting practice before. I think everybody's able to go in there and see it before they play.
Right.
But I don't know the actual procedures of how they get that done. But I mean, it's just it would be just a scheduling deal with the College World Series.
Yeah,
for sure. All right, we'll be back here hour 2. We'll talk a little bit more about this Zion stuff and the SEC. I got to be honest, we're running out of things to talk
we
about.
really are. Usually all the email, I get athletic emails and things every morning from The Athletic, and there are things to talk about. I'm like, there's not.
Well, Saints are down at minicamp, and Saints are going through minicamp. NFL's happening right now. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. Come back with us, hour 2, Jordy Culotta Show, as always, built by R&B Builders.